Hello, and welcome to the Employee Drug-Free Workplace Training. According to the National Council on Alcoholism and Drug Dependence in 2013, 20.4 million adults are classified with substance dependence or abuse. 12.3 million of adults classified with substance dependence or abuse are employed full-time. 3.1% of employed adults use illicit drugs before reporting to work or during work hours, at least once in the past year. 2.9% working while under the influence of an illicit drug. Drug abuse costs employers $81 billion annually. We'll be covering many important points during this presentation. First, we'll go over the objectives of this training. We'll then provide an overview of our drug-free workplace policy and discuss the impact of substance abuse in the workplace. We'll talk about ways that people use alcohol and other drugs and try to help you understand addiction by discussing the signs and symptoms of substance abuse. We'll also discuss the role of family and coworkers, available assistance, confidentiality issues, and specific drugs of abuse. The drug-free workplace policy exists to protect the health and safety of all employees, customers, and the public, safeguard employer assets from theft and destruction, protect trade secrets, maintain product quality and company integrity and reputation, and to comply with the Drug-Free Workplace Act of 1988 or any other applicable laws. Let's talk about the impact of substance abuse in the workplace. Employee health. People who abuse alcohol or other drugs tend to neglect nutrition, sleep, and other basic health needs. Substance abuse depresses the immune system. Its impact on the workplace includes higher use of health benefits, increased use of sick time, and higher absenteeism and tardiness. Productivity. Employees who are substance abusers can be physically and mentally impaired while on the job. Substance abuse interferes with job satisfaction and the motivation to do a good job. Its impact on the workplace includes reduced output, increased errors, lower quality of work, and reduced customer satisfaction. Decision making. Individuals who abuse alcohol and or other drugs often make poor decisions and have a distorted perception of their ability. Here, substance abuse's impact on the workplace includes reduced innovation, reduced creativity, less competitiveness, and poor decisions, both daily and strategic. Safety. Common effects of substance abuse include impaired vision, hearing, and muscle coordination, and low levels of attention, alertness, and mental acuity. Its impact on the workplace includes increased accidents and more workers' compensation claims. Employee morale. The presence of an employee with drug and or alcohol problems creates a strain on relationships between coworkers. Organizations that appear to condone substance abuse create the impression that they do not care. Impact on the workplace includes higher turnover, lower quality, and reduced team effort. Security. Employees with drug and or alcohol problems often have financial difficulties, and employees who use illegal drugs may be engaging in illegal activities in the workplace. In this area, substance abuse's impact on the workplace can include theft and law enforcement involvement. Finally, substance abuse impacts organizational image and community relations. Accidents, lawsuits, and other incidents stemming from employee substance abuse problems may receive media attention and hurt an organization's reputation in the community. The impact on the workplace includes reduced trust and confidence, and reduced ability to attract high-quality employees. Abuse. When the use of a substance to modify or control mood or state of mind is in a manner that is illegal or harmful to oneself or others, it is considered problematic use or abuse. Examples of potential consequences of harmful use are accidents or injuries, blackouts, legal problems, poor job performance, family problems, and sexual behavior that increases the risk of HIV infection. Addiction. A number of individuals occasionally use or abuse alcohol or drugs without becoming addicted, but for many, abuse continues despite repeated attempts to return to more social or controlled use and leads to addiction. Addiction is the irresistible compulsion to use alcohol and drugs despite adverse consequences. It is characterized by repeated failures to control use, increased tolerance, and increased disruption in the family. Unfortunately, it is not possible to tell early on whose use may lead to abuse and/or addiction. For 1 in 10 people, abuse leads to addiction. Addiction to alcohol and other drugs is chronic. Once you have developed an addiction, you will always have to deal with it. You may manage to stop using alcohol or other drugs for significant periods of time, but for most, the disease doesn't disappear, but rather goes into remission. Should you attempt to resume normal use, you will rapidly return to addictive, out-of-control use and abuse. Progressive. Addiction gets worse over time. With some drugs, the decline is rapid. With others, like alcohol, it can be more. It does get worse. Alcohol and other drugs cause a biochemical change in the nervous system that can persist even after the substance leaves the blood. Repeated use causes progressive damage. Primary. Addiction is not just a symptom of some underlying psychological problem, a developmental stage, or a reaction to stress. Once your use of alcohol or drugs has become an addiction, the addiction itself needs to be medically treated as a primary illness. Terminal. Addiction to alcohol and/or other drugs often leads to disease and possibly death. Characterized by denial. One of the most disturbing and confusing aspects of addiction is that it is characterized by denial. The user denies that his or her use is out of control or that it is causing any problems at home or work. The user often seems to be the last to know that his or her life is out of control. There are effective strategies employed by professionals for helping to break through this denial, which must be overcome before treatment can take place. It's important to know that addiction is a family disease. Some people with a history of substance abuse in their family are more susceptible to developing problems with addiction. Children of alcoholics or addicts are 3 times as likely to develop problems. If both parents are addicts or alcoholics, the risk increases to 5 times as great. This is due to heredity as well as learned behavior. It is important for parents to realize that children learn much more from watching their behavior than listening to their advice. Prior abuse of alcohol and other drugs has a great impact on developing future problems. A pattern of abuse develops and can lead to addiction, psychological reliance on drugs and/or alcohol. This can be a slow progression for some and a rapid decline for others. Research demonstrates that the later in life an individual first drinks alcohol or uses other drugs, the less likely he or she will be to progress to problem use. Other contributing factors. Some people abuse alcohol and drugs as part of a self-destructive lifestyle. Other people start to use substances to seek relief from depression or crisis in their lives. Although some fortunate individuals never develop serious problems and use diminishes or ceases once the precipitating events change, others develop a serious problem before they even realize it. Abuse of alcohol and other drugs affects people emotionally, behaviorally, and physically. Some examples of emotional effects of substance abuse include aggression, burnout, anxiety, depression, paranoia, and denial. Some behavioral effects include slow reaction time, impaired coordination, slowed or slurred speech, irritability, excessive talking, inability to sit still, limited attention span, and poor motivation or lack of energy. A few physical effects include weight loss, sweating, chills, the smell of alcohol. Families and coworkers can have a significant impact on substance use and abuse. One way is through enabling, an action that someone takes to protect the person with the problem from the consequences of his or her actions. Unfortunately, enabling actually helps the person to not deal with his or her problem. Examples of enabling include covering up, providing alibis, making excuses, or even doing an impaired worker's work rather than confronting the issue that he or she is not meeting his or her expectations. Rationalizing, developing reasons why the person's continued substance abuse or behavior is understandable or acceptable. Withdrawing or avoiding, avoiding contact with the person with the problem. Blaming, blaming yourself for the person's continued substance abuse or getting angry at the individual for not trying hard enough to control his or her use or to get help. Controlling, trying to take responsibility for the person by throwing out his or her drugs, cutting off the supply, or trying to minimize the impact by moving him or her to a less important job. And threatening, saying that you will take action if the employee doesn't control his or her use, but not following through. Further, there are many traps that family members and coworkers may fall into. They include sympathy, trying to get you involved in his or her personal problems; excuses, having increasingly improbable explanations for everything that happens; apology, being very sorry and promising to change; diversions, trying to get you to talk about other issues in life or in the workplace; innocence, claiming he or she is not the cause of the problems you observe, but rather the victim; anger, showing physically intimidating behavior and blaming others; pity, using emotional blackmail to elicit your sympathy and guilt; and tears, falling apart and expressing remorse upon confrontation. If EAP services are not available, help may be available from community hotlines, self-help groups such as Alcohol Anonymous, Narcotic Anonymous, etc., community mental health centers, private therapists or counselors, addiction treatment centers. Confidentiality is a core principle of EAP services. Employees need to know that problems will not be made public. Conversations with an EAP professional or other referral agent are private and will be protected. And all information related to performance issues will be maintained in his or her personnel file. Information about any referral to treatment, however, will be kept separately. Information about treatment for addiction or mental illness is not a matter of public record and cannot be shared without a signed release from the employee. If an employee chooses to tell coworkers about his or her private concerns, that is his or her decision. When an employee tells his or her supervisor something in confidence, supervisors are obligated to protect that disclosure. However, There are some limits on confidentiality that may require disclosure of child abuse, elder abuse, and serious threats of homicide or suicide as dictated by state law, reporting participation in an EAP to the referring supervisor, reporting the results of assessment and evaluation following a positive drug test, verifying medical information to authorize release time or satisfy fitness for duty concerns as specified in company policy, and revealing medical information to the insurance company in order to qualify for coverage under a benefits plan. All drugs, including alcohol, chemically alter the mind and body. As a result, use of drugs and or alcohol can impair motor skills, hinder judgment, distort perception, decrease reaction time, and interfere with other skills necessary to do a job safely and efficiently. Specific drugs of abuse include those listed on this slide, and all have their own set of signs and symptoms. To conclude, I hope this presentation has shed some light on the impact of drug and alcohol abuse on the workplace, the value of drug-free workplace programs, and where employees struggling with substance problems can turn for help. If you have any questions regarding the drug-free workplace policy, please contact your human resource agent.